And now, some 60 years after my first visit, with a much more learned color in my hair, I again ponder these magnificent structures. For more than 4 decades, my life has been very tightly wound around the Masonic fraternity. And today, in my role with the Masonic Service Association, I am again moved with awe and wonder as at my first visit here. But I fully understand more than ever before the significance and influence of men who were Masons that helped achieve this historic Mount Rushmore. The Masonic Service Association over the years has produced countless publications and educational materials since it was created in 1919 to spread good word about our fraternity to the members of the fraternity and to the general public. Our short talk bulletins, which have been published every month since January of 1923, are a leading example of MSA's communications. I was pleased to have contact nearly 2 years ago with our current Grand Master of the Grand Lodge of South Dakota, Most Worshipful Brother Michael Rodman, and he told me that the 75th anniversary was coming up. And then he wrote for us the short talk bulletin that was published in March of 2015, describing the many Masonic connections in the successful architecture of Mount Rushmore. And I want to thank the Grand Master again for that important contribution. Now, we have a limited number. I have a stack of some of these that I'm going to put up here on the table. If anyone wants to take a copy of this short talk back, which summarizes those Masonic connections, you are free to do so. As a youngster, I was awed by the size and spectacular nature of the mountain. As a young man, I was moved by the Masonic connections to it, and today I'm filled with a strong patriotic fervor for these wonderful figures. May our children's children share that same amazement and patriotic feelings that we have here today, and may they forever honor the leaders depicted here who helped provide the freedom that we enjoy today in the United States of America. So let it be.
To introduce, but before I do, I just want to first of all thank Worshipful Master, Grand Master Mike Rodman. Thank you for the invitation to be at this event. I've had a fantastic time. Thank you for your kindness, your generosity, and to all the brothers that are here today, especially the South Dakota guys that were, and people that were there last night that heard me go on and on and on. Before I go, I'm going to walk that way after I introduce the next person to sit with my wife, who I just want to introduce real quick. Janet, please stand up. Janet Wolter. Years, May 31st of this year. Okay. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce Most Worshipful Brother Ridgely Gilmore, President of the George Washington National Masonic Memorial.
Thank you, Scott. Most Worshipful Grand Master, Grand Lodge officers, distinguished visitors, and ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of George Sagers, our Executive Director of the Memorial, and myself, I want to express thanks for being included in this incredibly historic event. It's really an honor to participate. I will say right offhand, coming to Mount Rushmore has been on my wife Ann's and my bucket list for years and years, and I grew up in Utah and always wanted to come here and headed here and got stuck in Wyoming and never made it further. Anyway, it's this kind of public demonstration of Freemasonry in action that I think is going to ensure the future of our fraternity and educate the public. But again, thank you very much for this chance to participate. As the father of our country and surely our first citizen, Washington is first and foremost in this spectacular sculpture. It makes me proud to be an American Freemason to know that Masons were active in the conception and construction of this great monument here in the American West. And I am doubly proud that the Freemasons of the United States conceived of and funded and built the George Washington Masonic National Memorial on the other side of the country in Alexandria, Virginia. Between the huge effort in creating this indelible sculpture, an incredible sculpture, here and the astounding George Washington Masonic National Memorial in Alexandria, it should be obvious to everyone that Freemasonry has played an active and a vital role in the founding and development of this country. Of the 4 men carved on this mountain, I understood that only 2 were known to be Freemasons, and Brother Scott, I learned something about Jefferson when you mentioned that. The evidence of either Jefferson or Lincoln being Freemasons, but we do know that Jefferson participated in the Masonic Cornerstone ceremony for the University of Virginia in 1817. And as you've heard, Lincoln wrote a letter suggesting he hoped to join the lodge at Springfield, Illinois, after he retired from the presidency. My mother's family came from Springfield and knew Lincoln and probably would have been in that lodge had he had a different fate. Theodore Roosevelt was a Freemason. He joined the Masonic Lodge in Oyster Bay, New York in 1901. And he once said, "It's amazing what can be accomplished when you believe you can't fail." A quote that relates well to this magnificent monument here on this site. As president of the George Washington Memorial, I can assure you that Washington was a Freemason his entire adult life, from the time he joined Fredericksburg Lodge No. 4 in Virginia at the age of 20 in 1752 until his death in 1799. This national memorial to our 4 Masonic presidents here was not carved by a brother Freemason because of their Masonic membership. It was because of the virtues they exhibited, the great efforts and sacrifices they made to make the United States of America the greatest nation in the history of the world. While I cannot speak for Jefferson, Lincoln, or Roosevelt, I will speak about Washington and begin with a quote from the Grand Master of Massachusetts, Melvin Johnson, at the dedication of the George Washington Masonic National Memorial in 1932, when he said, "George Washington was not great because he was a brother of the craft. He was great because his natural abilities, willed into action, were guided and inspired by the fundamental principles of Freemasonry that Freemasonry inculcates, and which so saturated every fiber of his being that he thought them, spoke them, and lived them." The George Washington Masonic National Memorial, therefore, was not dedicated to Washington merely because he was a Freemason, but because he exemplified what every Freemason ought to be, a virtuous man. George Washington was and still is the perfect example of Freemasonry in action. In 2006, the Memorial Association reaffirmed this with a new vision statement designed to take us into this new century. That is, to inspire humanity through education, to emulate and promote the virtues, character, and vision of George Washington, the man, the Mason, and the father of our country. But what is meant by Washington's virtue and character and vision? These attributes were recognized in Washington at an early age, but were best articulated in the very moments of his retirement. John Adams, on becoming the 2nd President of the United States, said of Washington in his 1797 inaugural address, excuse me, oh goodness, the nightmare of everybody that gives a speech. Well, if you'll hang on, I'm going to pull out this electronic version here. I don't know why I always have it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry. I have a 4-page speech, and guess what? This happened to me once before in Washington, D.C. Well, let me just say that when John Adams became president, he extolled the virtues of Washington, saying that his temperance, prudence, fortitude, and justice were with him through all of his life, and that because of that, he became truly the American hero that we have, and became truly the respected by nations all across the world. And the idea that the Washington didn't learn those from Freemasonry. As a young man, he entered his respect of his mentors and the people that helped him educate. He was not an educated man from the standpoint of universities and things like that. He was a self-educated man. And through that, he showed by his personal character and became the man that he was, and Freemasonry was something that he just melted into. He, as a Virginia planter, he learned those values, and it came through and became his part of his life. And through those virtues of prudence, temperance, fortitude, and zeal that he inculcated, he became, throughout his life, and allowed him to become the man that he was and the father of our country. Believe me, if I had had it written down, I would have said that much better than I just did. But he lived for 67 years, and during the 24 of those years, more than a third of his life, he was the foremost man in America, on whom the fate of this nation depended. Yet the virtues of Washington lived were learned as a young man, as I just mentioned. The fact that if you get an individual who memorized Seneca's morals as a young man, can you imagine people today doing that in his steady practice of the 110 rules of civility, for which he is famous? His early outstanding personal code of ethics laid the groundwork for his lifelong adherence to these Masonic tenets. But Washington's last public act summarizes a life dedicated to integrity and humility. At the beginning of John Adams' presidential inauguration, he led the procession on the stage, as he rightly should. At its conclusion, however, Washington insisted that he retire not only after President Adams, but also after Vice President Jefferson. A small courtesy, but one that demonstrates to all men in every age that the highest office is higher than any man who ever occupies it, and that ultimately every office is subordinate to law. But here at Mount Rushmore, the profiles of 4 of America's most revered presidents, each in their own right uniquely qualified to fulfill their destiny, are rightly honored and preserved for the benefit of future generations. To the Grand Lodge of South Dakota, we thank you for the work you've done to commemorate this magnificent monument here in your state. This monument here and the George Washington Masonic National Memorial on the other side of the country can each help in educating our youth and our citizens of the importance of character and selflessness, selfless dedication to the betterment of humanity. It is much needed in today's society, as we can see. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and most worshipful Grand Master, my apologies for missing the middle of it. But the fact that you've done this, incredible for your participation, and public demonstrations of masonry is what this fraternity is about. And if any of you have not been to the memorial, I give you a personal invite to come. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ridgely. I'm going to take just a moment. First of all, I'm going to take a moment to thank Scott Walter and the fantastic job he's done for us here today. Scott, stand up and take a moment. Thank you, Scott. I'd also like to take just a moment to recognize Katie Seymour and Marilyn Seymour, representing South Dakota's United States Senator Mike Rounds. Katie? Thank you for being here. It is my great honor to introduce our next guest. Marty Jackley serves as South Dakota's Chief Law Enforcement Officer and Legal Advisor. Marty was raised in Sturgis and graduated from the South Dakota School of Mines and Technology with a Bachelor's of Science degree in Electrical Engineering with honors. After receiving his law degree from the University of South Dakota, he clerked for the Chief Federal Judge of South Dakota. Marty then joined and became a partner in the Rapid City law firm of Gunderson, Palmer, Nelson, and Ashmore, where he specialized in criminal, civil, and business litigation. In 2006, he was unanimously confirmed by the United States Senate as U.S. Attorney for South Dakota. Marty was named the South Dakota Prosecutor of the Year in 2008. In 2010 and 2014, Marty was overwhelmingly elected as South Dakota's Attorney General. He has served as the President of the National Association of Attorneys General and Chairman of the Conference of Western Attorneys General. In 2016, Marty was honored to receive the National Kelly Wyman Outstanding Attorney General Award. Marty's wife, Angela, live in Pierre with her two children, Michael and Isabella. Shortly after being elected Attorney General, Marty became an active partner with the Masons of South Dakota in the Child Identification Program. We are indebted to Marty for his tireless promotion and public support of our program throughout South Dakota. It is my pleasure to welcome our friend, Attorney General Marty Jackley.
Thank you and congratulations, Grandmaster Rodman. As Attorney General and on behalf of the state of South Dakota, I want to welcome you to our Shrine of Democracy. On the 75th anniversary, we're here to celebrate the historic Masonic influence at Mount Rushmore, from, of course, Washington to Jefferson to Teddy Roosevelt, onwards to Gutzon Borglum himself, as well as the Carvers, had a tremendous historic Masonic influence. But what I want to talk about today is also the importance of the Masons today and what you've done across the nation and here in South Dakota. You know, the job of the Attorney General is really very simple. It's to do everything he or she can to keep communities safe. And I'm lucky in South Dakota because we cherish the ability to leave our houses unlocked and our cars and vehicles unlocked. But we've had some reminders lately of how tragedy can happen no matter how great of parents we are. We just had the Jacob Wetterling discovery here in South Dakota. We've had 6 Amber Alerts, most recently in the last 30 days, which shows you how well the public is. The last Amber Alert we had when we had a missing child, within 10 minutes we had 3 members of the public help law enforcement to help recover a child that had a medical condition. We've had a lot of opportunities in South Dakota to protect children, but the opportunity that your program, the CHIP program, the Child Identification Program, is one of the most important opportunities we have. And as Attorney General, I want to both thank you, as well as thank you as a parent. 21,700 children, including my Michael and Isabella, are being protected by that program. Your program that partners with law enforcement has the ability, when God forbid a child is taken, to be able to give that kit from the parents to law enforcement with the DNA, the dental implants, the voice recognition, to help law enforcement when time is of the essence, go protect a child, to go find that child. And so as the Attorney General, I want to both encourage you and thank you to make sure that you continue that program. And if there's ever anything I or law enforcement do to continue to partner with you and promote your efforts to continue to have a free program that protects children, I want to do that. So keep up the great work. Welcome the guests to South Dakota, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marty. It's now my great honor to introduce illustrious Ronald A. Steele, 33rd degree, Sovereign Grand Commander of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, Southern jurisdiction of the United States. He was elected and installed in October of 2003. He is a native of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He attended public schools in Baton Rouge before graduating with a BA from Louisiana State University in 1970 and a doctorate in jurisprudence from Cumberland School of Law, Samford University in 1973. Sorry about that. He entered law practice in Baton Rouge in 1974. He is a member of Eastgate Masonic Lodge number 452 and Baton Rouge Scottish Rite Bodies. He was invested with the rank and decoration of Knight Commander Court of Honor in 1977 and coronated a 33rd Inspector General Honorary in 1993. He and his wife Sandra have 2 children. Please join me in welcoming Commander Steele.
Thank you, Most Worshipful Grand Master, Brother Mike, members and officers of the Most Worshipful Grand Lodge of South Dakota, visiting Grand Masters, Mr. Attorney General. It's certainly my pleasure to be here today and to participate in this ceremony. I thank you for this deal they've got about a keynote speaker. That's hard, What that means is the last guy in line.